connect with so many wonderful panelists who've taken their time out, like they have today, and being a part of this webinar so that we can reach out in our endeavor. So let me introduce you to all our esteemed guests today. We have Dr. Apurva Panchikar. Dr. Apurva is Assistant Professor of Special Education at SNDT University, Juhu, Mumbai. Very warm welcome, Dr. Apurva. And thank you for joining us once again on our webinars. And our second
Thank you, my pleasure.
And our second panelist is Ms. Rachna. Ms. Rachna Verma is a teacher at the Leelavati Bai Public High School in Santa Cruz, Mumbai. And Ms. Rachna teaches English as well as she coordinates a particular initiative which is known as UIND. Okay. And that generally is, I think, something that talks about Europe and India. Rachna, I think, I hope I'm right with what I have said. Yes?
Yeah, it is a cultural exchange program taken up by the school, UMind. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. And a very warm welcome to you. And our third panelist is Karishma. Karishma Dhuria is a school counselor with close to a decade of experience. She has, across the years, worked with various schools and is also a very esteemed team member and a leadership member at Drishti. So very warm welcome, Karishma.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so let's start with today, with the topic on what's happening to inclusion of special education needs during the pandemic. I've been reading a lot what's happening not only in our country but across the globe. There's a very, very nice report that is being written by, Oxfam. And if any of you wish to go through it, you will find it on the net, okay? And which gives us various different perspectives, which is why today we have invited our panelists who come from kind of different perspectives. One, we have a very senior school teacher. We have Dr. Apurva, who is a professor of special education, and therefore would have an overview on the different stakeholdings as far as education is concerned. And then we have Karishma here, who would be able to tell us about, what has been the mental health issues as well as generally inclusion in the schools. So if I may start, this is a question to all of you, right? And that is, how do you think we are generally faring as far as education is concerned during the pandemic? So how are we doing in terms of online education during the pandemic? But I'm not just going to ask you for your views. I have a little thought processing for you. I want you to rate this for me on a scale of 1 to 5. Okay? So 1, we're not doing well at all. And 5, we're doing extremely well. Okay? So I'd like each of the panelists to tell me what their rating on the scale of 1 to 5 is and why. Okay? So any three of you, if you have your rating ready and want to tell us why, let's start off.
Okay, can I begin as a teacher from a teacher's perspective?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
With your permission, Ms. Apurva and Ms. Karishma, can I go ahead?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Yes, please. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Smita. I would like to say that as far as imparting education is concerned, as far as imparting the content is concerned, I would rate it to 5. Right? But if I rate it to the skills, the other skills, what we talk about, all-round development, the social skills of children, the interaction with children, the hiding behind the camera, which we see there, we can see the psychological changes in them. That I would say maybe 2. I would not, because online learning, we are online, we are teaching everything, we are completing the content, we have graduated overnight. Overnight, we had to graduate. I think that the government started this online, teaching to reach the remote areas, but that was like a foreboding or a foreshadowing for things to come. And here we are in overnight, we just, learned without any training, with so many apprehensions with us, but, we stand tall. And I feel that we have done a good job as far as teaching the content is concerned, and making PPTs, voiceovers, PDF corrections. That is the teaching part. The learning part, the children have also, learned equally. They have been, with us throughout, and whatever we gave them, they took it, they learned better, and they gave it back to us in the form of PDFs and whatever you can say. So that is as far as for the schools that are that were already tech savvy. We were already ICT based schools, and we could cope up. uh, I saw that same thing. I'm a mother too, so I saw that same thing happening for my son's classes in the university. Okay, but if I go to a home school like say my nephew, he's studying in Isha Home School in Coimbatore. If you've heard about that, run by Sadhguru, it is also an ICSE school. They had some difficulty because they run on a different platform altogether. They believe in experiential learning, and so for them to graduate to this kind of a teaching overnight, they took some time. But if you ask me for that, yes, we have had in our school, we have had student council selections, we have had Gizmo Geek being done, we have conducted sports days online, and also the UMind that I was talking about earlier. In the previous years, it's a cultural exchange program. So we would have video conferences only twice a year, and that too would be conducted by the school. Specially, the IT department would come set it up for us, and we would have the video conference with the European schools, the children there. This year, we learned so well how to conduct our own meetings. So we met them like n number of times, and there was nothing as a documentation of a video conference. We used to document those video conferences earlier. This year it was like video conferences all the way, and the children interacted so well that this time our school got all 5 excellence awards for our projects, because the children could interact better. They knew exactly how to go about things. So that way it is good. But when I teach in the class and when I see the changes in the children, that I will come to maybe a little later. So that's what
Yes,
I
yes,
wanted to say.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you
how
so
should
much.
I average it? Should I average it at a 4, or should I
At a
average
4.
it at a 3?
At a 4. Content learning, absolutely perfect. There's no doubt
Sure.
about
Right,
it.
right, right, right. Got it, got it. Thank you so much, Ms. Rashna. Thanks so much for sharing. Apurva, you want to go next?
Absolutely. Thank you. I think Rachna ma'am has already set the stage for what even I have been thinking about. Yes, with regard to the rating, I would say we are at a 4. The way I am seeing our adjustment and the way we have evolved in this complete process, we have moved from chaos to clarity to comfort. When we started off, when planning for how do we reach out to the students, what kind of changes are going to be required by us, we were all in a state of major confusion, major chaos, not knowing what to do. But we adapted quickly. We adapted quickly, understanding the demands of student learning, understanding what our skills and capabilities as teachers are, understanding what is the system that is requiring of us, also looking at what are the ICT tools available to us. But I think, when we started off in March 2020, and by the time we arrived in June or July 2020, that's the new academic year, the teachers had done a wonderful job of spending the complete summer vacation in overhauling their own skills, trying to fit the content teaching into how they could do it, how they could deliver it most effectively using the tools that they had learned. And I think now that we are in the new academic year of 21-22, I think we are very comfortable there. Yes. So with regards to how the teachers are doing, how they have adapted, and how they are able to reach out to the students vis-a-vis content learning, it's 5. But again, when it comes to skills, it comes to socialization, it comes to learning the social, emotional aspects of being, we definitely are falling short somewhere. I am a teacher educator, and I see that lag majorly when it comes to the kind of hands-on training that we otherwise would have been able to provide to the special educators. And I feel that is missing. When I am training my students to be special educators, I want them to have hands on experience working with children with milder levels of support needs or even moderate and severe. And where do I provide them with these opportunities? Everything cannot happen in the online mode. So, when I'm looking at this whole educational scenario from the special education teacher educator, I feel we are yet not there, but we have done quite well. So a 3 there and a 5 for the teacher adaptability and going head on and moving from the chaos to clarity to comfort. I think it's a 4 for me.
Right, right. Thank you so much. Okay, I think it's very heartening, and I think I'm really going to take back what you just said, Dr. Purva, from that chaos to clarity to comfort. I think we are all seeing, and I think we are very aware that we actually moved through those phases. So on to you, Karishma. From psychologist perspective, from a school counselor's perspective, um, what is your rating and what would be your justification for that?
So I think most of the things have already been added by Dr. Apurva and Ms. Rachna. However, yes, so indeed the entire pandemic has made us go through from, as what Dr. Apurva said, from chaos to comfort. And teaching was one of the profession which had to be set up, which changed overnight. So I do see, I know a lot of schools where the teacher took the authorities of the schools took so much of effort, and they immediately started taking up sessions where they had trained teachers how to go in for an online platform. So on a personal level, I had no idea how to work on Microsoft Teams, but the entire school, since we knew that this is something that a new normal is what we had termed, um, now that in such a way that yes, when it comes to teaching new skills or using online platforms, I think that's what teachers are very good at. I think I myself have evolved a lot when it comes to managing online platforms like Zoom, Microsoft Teams. However, still we still need to work upon a lot of social and emotional well-being of children. One aspect is, yes, it's in the screen. I mean, I still have only one screen to look at as a child. So that's something which still need to be worked on. So I would rate it at 3 on a scale of 1 to 5.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Karishma. I think I know because we've been having these conversations about how to do the classroom observations, to really observe all the children, which otherwise when you used to go into class, you immediately figure out which child needed what. So I think that's something that I think that might be probably a reason for you to be rating it at 1 to 3. A 3 on rating scale of 1 to 5. But still, I think overall, if we moved at 3, 4, 4 out of 5, we are definitely not doing too bad. And I think there are common components here. I think everyone's looked at the actual adaptability of teachers and the teaching learning process. That's one part of it. And the second aspect, which is the social emotional learning, where I think all of you agree that, that's where probably, we've taken a hit, and that's just because of the nature of the whole issue, right? Okay. So, Ms. Rachna, if I may start with you. Thanks, everyone, all three of you. I just thought it would make it interesting to get different viewpoints and actually get that quantitative figure out, So, Ms. Rachna, my question to you is that, with the teaching process online, right? What have been your experiences, maybe yours and your group of teachers, whatever? What have been your experiences in terms of, your execution of the lessons? Do you find that you're able to complete it? And whatever else you might cover under the teaching process. What has been your experience?
Okay. See, teaching, we are going exactly as planned. Whatever was planned,
Okay.
even before the pandemic hit us, before March 2020, we went exactly like that. Now, as Miss said, first there was chaos. chaos in our minds, I think. Not as much as planning was concerned. Chaos was more in the mind, and how are we going to execute this? It's such a herculean task, and how am I going to do this? And especially for those of us who are not that tech savvy, it is quite a challenge, right? But then yes, as Amit said also, we all learned. So as far as the teaching is concerned, it went as planned. The content was covered throughout, and we had moderators in the class. So the main glitch was, what if the Wi-Fi gets disconnected? The main thing, how would you, get for that time? How would you get back that time and complete your work? So for that, we had moderators of the same subject sitting in the classroom who would take over in case somebody's Wi-Fi gets disconnected, or there is a problem with presentation of the PPT, or a child maybe disturbing the class. So the other moderator who's there can take over and take charge of that while the teacher is continuing to teach, so the class doesn't get disturbed. So as far as the teaching was concerned, that's how it helped. But for a teacher, being a teacher, teaching a screen was the major challenge, not the content, not delivering my content. That looking at the screen was a major challenge, because the children, uh, you know, the cameras were not on. If they were on, sometimes it would lag. So then we had to switch off our cameras. Sometimes the children are not in the same city. Some of them were stuck up in various other cities. Somebody was sitting in Goa, somebody was in the south, and they were all connecting from there. And so we couldn't, get to see them. And unless you see their expressions as a teacher, when I am teaching, that eye contact is so important to me. I know the minute I see in their eyes, I look in their eyes, and I know they have understood or they have not understood. Their reactions tell me a lot. Uh, what is the next question I need to ask? Who do I need to ask? Who's doing what? So that is where we feel. So as far as the portion completion is there, it's all right. But because we had planned that way, and our timetables were set, and the children also used to join in. We had our assessments on time. We have derived various ways of assessment as well. Not only the pen and paper, we are doing continuous evaluation now, and we have as we said, we have been learning throughout how to take other platforms and do quizzes and do multiple choice and do so many other platforms we have come up with, where we are making continuously worksheets and trying to bring an interest in that classroom which is virtual, which is, so it has to be kept interesting somehow. You just cannot teach the way you used to uh, in the normal classroom. So
Right, right, right. Thank you so much. So if I can summarize it, what you're saying is that there were no problems in terms of actually planning lessons or executing them,
that
but the glitches probably came in terms of technology, where you were anxious about whether that would behave itself or not, so to say. And what I hear is that what was not very satisfying was the engagement, right? I mean, you didn't feel that kind of connect,
as a
right?
teacher,
That you
yeah,
would be
as a
used. Yes,
teacher, you
yes,
need
of
to be
course.
connected to your students all the time,
Right,
which is
right,
not
right.
happening here.
And I think I'm going to take that back. What you said, you were teaching. You felt like you were teaching a screen rather than teaching
Absolutely,
children, right?
absolutely, yeah,
Great,
very
great.
true.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rashna. That was great.
Yeah.
Karishma, over to you. A little bit about behavior. How did you find during your observations? I know that you have been observing classrooms and etc. Seeing children, etc. So, how do you think the children have been behaving during this period of online learning? And if you could tell us two or three of the common behavior patterns or the behavior disturbances that you might have seen in the online classrooms during the pandemic.
Right. So, I think one is right now students are very coping well when it comes to the online, because now they're set with their routine. They know that, okay, now I'm going to have an online class. These are the times. So now they're very well prepared. However, yes, there are very, very common behavioral, difficulties or, behavior observation that I have done it in the class, not just while observing the class, but also, when I conduct a lot of life skills guidance classes. And I think one of them, which rightly was being mentioned by Miss Rachna, is the cameras going off. Also, I have realized it's all up to grade wise. So primary would have different set of behavioral concerns that they would show in as compared to secondary students, where engagement, cameras going off. We've seen that, the moment a teacher would ask any question, the children suddenly log out, or a lot of time inappropriate. I do see the thumbs up coming up from Ms. Rachna. So yes, that's what is the difficulty that we have seen. There's a lot of inappropriate way of communication in the chat box. So when it comes to technology, that's something which I have also seen while my class observation or while taking life skills guidance classes. However, there are few external factors also that plays the role. Like I have a student where there are two siblings, they have a one room to share. Then it becomes very difficult for both of them to manage their online classes. Or the flip side to it is that the child is in the room, the child has switched off the camera, and we don't know, despite of repeatedly informing the child that please switch on your camera, it doesn't happen. And we don't know whether the child is engaging into any other, playing games or watching YouTube. So I think these are few of the behavioral concerns that I have observed during my observations.
Thank you so much, Karishma. So I think I've also heard a lot of this from the different teachers about the camera going off. And I think initially, that's why parents also were being hooked in kind of to, monitor them and ensure that these kids don't go off the camera. But, that can't go on. I mean, it can't go on for such a sustained, so to say, sustained period of time. So, yeah, thank you. Thanks, Karishma. And Apurva, over to you. Yeah. As you mentioned, you're a teacher educator, and I'm sure that you've been in touch with various schools as well as teachers. So, what according to you are some of the challenges which have been commonly faced by teachers in working with students with special education needs like autism or learning disabilities, ADHD, etc., in their online classroom during the last 1 year? The challenges that the teachers are facing.
I would say, Smita, the very first challenge, the teachers started facing was right in March 2020 when we had to go online. And then there was this struggle to use either the mobile or it could be the laptop for reaching out to children. And sadly, that's something which is a fact. We all are highly aware of that. Children who are marginalized are the ones who are least priority. And that was also happening with children with special needs. When it came to choosing which child in the home would have access to technology for learning, it would be the child without special educational need. So having to convince the parents that the education of this child is equally important and that you need to make technology available was a big, big, big battle. And many teachers, I'm happy to say that, but many teachers were able to win that battle. Great. The second challenge was, okay, the child has got access. However, if the child came from a relatively low socioeconomic strata, again, there was a big challenge. Because the parents, if it was a mobile phone, a smartphone, the parents needed it to go out for work or use it for their work than the child. So even this was a major challenge. So I'm yet coming to the challenges that they are facing or were facing and are facing even today vis-a-vis the classroom interactions and the transaction. But this was a major battle. However, many of them were able to work through it. Many of them were able to convince the parents to let the child have access to this technology for education. But what we are seeing today is, I'm just referring to one of the OECD reports, which says that in a general education classroom, only 40% of teachers are ICT savvy. They have the ICT skills.
Yeah.
And the OECD report also says that they have no data vis-a-vis these skills in special education teachers. So can you imagine that, okay, there could be individual differences. Some teachers, some special education teachers are better than the others, but what about most? This is also coming from the fact that though we do talk about ICT-enabled teaching learning environments, This is not the norm in special ed schools. We look at more individualized, more personalized, more active, hands-on kind of a training for children with special needs. So being able to use that and training the children with special needs to learn that technology for learning was a big challenge. So many teachers had to spend one-to-one time with children with special needs to teach them the technology first. And then the concern about content learning or then meeting the goals which have been listed in the IEP, all that started coming in. This has worked for children with milder support needs. So it could be a child with maybe an SLD, or a child with slow learning abilities, or a child with mild intellectual ability. However, those children who have more needs for supports, be it through assistive technology, or be it through parents, or be it through teachers, or be it through peers, these were the ones who have been affected. Because those supports are not available to them easily in the online modality. Children with comorbid conditions, children with low sitting tolerance, children with attentional issues, they have been having difficulties. And then naturally for the teacher, requiring to develop that kind of material, having to plan activities which are engaging for all the learners and which are again at different levels. I may be working with a class of just 6 children, but was so vastly different. There is no common platform which I can say, okay, I do this one and everyone is going to benefit. So individualizing the use of technology, the use of the tools, use of the platforms has been a major challenge. Similarly, I would say even academic learning, content learning has been happening rather easily. Because be it concept teaching, use of videos, use of interactive material, it has definitely been included for children with milder disabilities. But what about those needs vis-a-vis interactions? So teachers are planning many activities for building the social emotional skills, for building hands-on training. But how does one do that when there is no support or minimal support from the parents? So I think a challenge has been in being able to have collaboration with the parents as equal partners in the process of education for children with special needs. That's what I would say.
So what you're saying is that collaborating with parents has been a challenge.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because unless and until the parents are on the same page, reaching out to children with special needs is definitely a Herculean task.
Right, and it doesn't matter whether those children are in special schools or whether they are in the mainstream schools.
Agree, completely.
Okay, right. Thank you so much. Rachna, over to you. Like if you can outline for us 2 or maybe 3 major, challenges or disturbances that you might have faced, as a teacher during these, online classrooms, and what have been your solutions? I mean, if you just take up any top 2, I think the audience will go away with some very useful material. And if you have any special needs child that you particularly want to kind of include in this, we could do that. Or you could just take any 2 generalist disturbances that you faced during the virtual classrooms, and most importantly, how have you dealt with them? Yeah, Rachna?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Mata. See, one I already mentioned, I won't call it disturbance as much, but more of a, like I said, no eye contact. So that is not a disturbance, but it's definitely one of the major concerns when you are teaching. When you are teaching a wall, you're just teaching A, B, C, D, some of the alphabets that are written there. Okay, and if you're presenting, so we stopped presenting in the if initially we started with presentations. If you're presenting, you're completely lost. You don't know who's there, who's not there, who you are teaching. So that changed. Then we made it more interactive. As Mr. Purva said, it needs to be interactive for us to achieve some kind of a at least I know that my children are understanding what I am teaching. right? So
Right.
that one of the issues was logging in and out. Now, when you are teaching, there is always this, somebody has logged out, somebody has logged in. That line keeps coming in. So as a teacher, when I am
Right.
teaching, it's disturbing there to see that this one has logged
Right.
out. Now, if he has logged out, I need to keep a track. I'm taking attendance, but I'm keeping a track what time that child logged out. If I'm teaching in the
Right.
school classroom, nobody can walk out unless I finish my class. Here,
Right.
the children are logging in and logging out at any time. So if the
Right.
class
Right.
has started, I have taken my attendance, but they still walk in after 15 minutes. Miss, my Wi-Fi wasn't working, so I wasn't able to join on time. So, you can't even say anything to that because yes, maybe there was a problem. So you can't refute that you joined late or you come in late. In school, we would not let them enter the classroom if they are late, even for a minute after the time is up. So
That's
those
right.
things, walking in and out. Then not responding to questions. As Ms. Karishma also said, that once you ask a question, those children who are a little, though they have some kind of an inhibition to answer or not sure of themselves, they would immediately log out. You can make out that they've logged out. They've logged out. Yes, logged out because maybe Miss is going to call out my name. Maybe I won't be able to answer. Why that apprehension? I keep telling them if you were in a normal classroom, also I would ask you questions. But why has this happened that they have started hiding behind the camera? which is which is not which is not the case in a normal classroom. Still they respond. Here they just take the easy way out and log out. That's not the way. You answer wrong. I keep telling them, you answer wrong, I will correct you. But try, give it a try. That's not an excuse to just, I have no miss by chance. The Wi-Fi went. I was trying to unmute and I logged out. Is that possible all the times? No. So those are the kind of things that we encounter. Also,
Right. Right.
very important thing, they Google answers. You don't know what they are doing with the other device next to them. They all have now. Initially, maybe they were all with one devices. Now, over the period of this 1.5 years, they most of them have two devices. If you ask them a question, they will Google and give you a Googled answer. So that imagination, yeah, you can make out it's a Googled answer. It's not if I am teaching a poetry, okay, and I want your imagination to come across. I'm asking you, what did you see in these lines? I'm not asking you to Google something and give me an answer which has already been written by someone. So where is that imagery, that visualization in the mind? All that is lost. They feel okay. If I have to answer, I have to answer correct. Google it, and so they've got used to that. The Googled answers instead of their own creativity, imagination. Like the other day, I was trying to show them MOV, a clip from a particular scene. Before even I could present, they had seen that link, they had copied it. Miss, can I present? Which which was not happening earlier. So they knew exactly that they could also present. They can see it later. I said, then fine, I'm not showing it to you. You all can see it later and understand. Is that okay? So those little things which tell you that okay, they have learned their technology, but they're not always using it for the positive sense of the word. When I say positive, not always positive. Or also siblings around. If we tell them to have the cameras on, sometimes you can see people walking behind. Okay, they get distracted. The children are distracted. Sometimes you can see them looking left and right. Maybe somebody walked past, maybe somebody is speaking loudly. When they switch on their microphones, we ask them to unmute and answer. You can hear a lot of noise in the background. Sometimes the children are in those houses where there is a lot of noise. And you can imagine the state of that child when the teacher is teaching. Are they able to hear
Right.
what I am telling them? And maybe because of that, they're not unmuting and answering. So there could be something behind there happening. Okay, so
Right.
those
Right.
things we notice in the class.
So,
So
so
it
Ms.
is.
Rachna, my next question would be, even if we could take up, say, two of these challenges, right?
Hmm.
Let's say one where, this login, log out, which I think has become a
Yeah.
universal
Hmm.
issue, most teachers are facing it. And of
Hmm.
course, like you said just now,
Yeah.
about them just finding these ready answers with the Google search. So, have you
Yeah. Yeah.
found your own customized solution, for each of these, or at least some
Uh,
attempts, so what might
to
those
the
efforts have
second
been?
one, definitely.
Yeah,
For
so if you can
at
share
least I can
that
talk
with
about my
us.
department for more of us. Yeah.
Yeah,
For the
sure.
Google answers, what we tell them, you frame your own questions. You frame your own questions. Let's have boys versus girls. Boys framing the questions, girls answering. Now, will you be able to Google the answer? No, you cannot. So we are having a recap. We are having, if you go wrong somewhere, I'm there. If the explanation is wrong, I'm there. But let them take over. And that's how they interact. That's how they are learning. Now, I can just give you one example of one child who has not spoken in my class for the last 6 to 8 months. He refused to speak. When I started this way of teaching last 1.5 months, I've just started
Right.
in the quiz format or some other format of teaching.
Right.
I am not doing a lecture method at all. So
Right.
what he started one day, I was having a quiz, and then I hear this sound of KBC, that music, and I said, "Who's playing this music?" I could see that that boy Aryan Maru, his name is, he was playing that music. Miss, I gave it that exact feeling of KBC because you are conducting a quiz, so I'm giving it that feeling. I was so pleased. I was so pleased that he has started, at least in some form, he has started interacting in this.
Right.
The next step that
Interact.
he did was he set a
Right.
timer for me. Miss, can I set a timer for you? 10 seconds. Can I keep time? Because I would tell them, okay, I'm timing you. Within 10 seconds, you got to answer. So those kind of things. So the children are getting more interactive. So that's one thing that was so heartwarming to see those children who were not interacting in a lecture kind of a method. Now with this,
Right.
maybe their own skills, and to get them away from being on the Google, expecting a question from the teacher and then I have to give an answer. No. So you frame your own questions and let me know what kind of questions come to
Right.
your mind. I will ask you some one mark, some open-ended questions, some
Sure.
justification, everything. So that is one thing.
Right.
And
Right.
also, we don't allow them to write anything in the chat box. Please unmute and speak up.
Okay.
We would like to hear you.
Ah.
And
Okay.
we would like
Okay.
to see your smiles, the smiling faces. Maybe one particular day we have a color code. I keep it like that. Keep a color code. Let's all wear red. We're going to celebrate Red Day, and I want the cameras on. I want a picture. Okay, so we've made like a class wall or something where every day we'll click a picture. So some day it's the school uniform, some day it's the
Oh,
red
nice.
red day, some day it's the
Right.
background
Right.
change. One day I just put myself under a tree. I changed my background like a gurukul. I said, so today I am your guru, and you all are my, those wo purana type ka wo gurukul we'll create. Everybody changed their background, and they were all under the tree. So at least that way the
Right.
cameras were
Right.
on. It lagged after 5 minutes, but that interest was created. Something different happened. So those are the ways we are also, devising to keep them,
Right.
keep
So
them.
innovations, basically, some of the
We
other
have to be.
innovations
We
that
have
we
to
will.
be innovative every
Right.
day. Every day.
Right, right. Apurva, my question to you, I mean, I'm just taking off, like just in whatever conversation we're having with Rachna. What are your thoughts on this major issue of this kids logging out? I mean, are there any kind of behavioral tools we can put in place? Anything that we can help the teachers with to deal with this major issue that, everyone's facing?
I think Rashna ma'am has given very innovative ideas to have students right there with you anytime.
Right, right,
Yeah. Some of the things that even I do in higher education are similar to what Rachna is doing with her school children. I think because finally students are students, be they children, be they adolescents, be they adult learners. Yes, even we do have many of these issues of students not switching on their cameras. And, actually in this meeting just now, I could see a few of my students there. And
right.
well, students, I'm going to take this conversation with you in my class the next time I see you. So,
And we're not just talking about kids, who are there in Rachna's class, but you're talking about your adult learners, right?
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
if we see it happening there, I mean, I think we're going to be
Yeah.
seeing it. Yeah, but any thoughts on what maybe a couple of things that might work?
What we have been trying to do is one is we are not too much into lecture mode, as Rachna was saying, I think because
Okay,
that's the pedagogy that we are into today. So
right,
using maybe Google Slides, Google Docs, it could be sending out, even Jambos, you give an activity and you keep monitoring the activity, so which ensures that the students are
right,
right there. Similarly, because you're working in small groups, it gives you an opportunity to observe, monitor,
okay,
and take account of what kind of learning is happening. So this
Right.
ensures that there is active engagement in the learning process.
Right.
We are seeing that because students are in the online virtual mode of learning now, they have become more self-directed learners.
Right.
They do realize that if I do not take the onus of my learning, no one else is going to. Because finally,
Okay.
you have to, appear for your formative assessments. So you have your continuous evaluations happening, you have your assignments to give in, and you might as well work. So the use of synchronous and asynchronous modalities is working well for us.
Okay.
So you
All right.
provide them with links or documents in the chat. You
Yes.
send out certain in the Google Drive, or you post it in the Google Classrooms, because we use Google
Right.
Classrooms. So we post
Right.
it there, and we see to it that the assignments come in on time, and they always are timed. So give it in this time, you get your credit. You give it in late, it's going to take off some credit from you. So I think more and more self-directed, self-motivated learners are what we are seeing. And inculcating that habit is a very crucial thing, finally, I believe.
Right.
So
Right.
giving these
Right.
values has helped.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Apurva. Rachna, just a related question here, therefore. I'd like to move on to, I'd like to move on to in your classrooms. I mean, you have in every classroom, you have children with learning difficulties, or I don't know if you have any student with autism, and, maybe with attention deficits. So, how are you dealing with these children's needs in your online classrooms? Any
Mm,
ideas specifically that you've been
we
utilizing?
have in the classrooms. See, we have a classroom of almost 50. So in the
Okay.
classroom, for them to look after these children, yes, we have a varied questions where it is for the slow learners as well, some higher order questions also. So we always plan like that. So it
Sure.
is like the
Right.
questionnaire is like that, or the teaching
It's more like
pattern
a
is like that.
differentiated instruction.
Absolutely. So sometimes we go
Right.
slow, sometimes we go where they can understand, we go fast, ask them questions.
Right.
These are the children who will not even answer in class. So for them,
Correct.
we have special remedial classes happening after the school is over.
Yes.
So every
Yes.
class has one or two slow learners, and we have them. So then we have to change technique to teach them. We can't teach them in the same way that we are conducting a class. So then we go line wise, or we go in a different way, show them video first, and then ask them questions. What did they understand? So different techniques adopted for them, for to benefit them. Of course, with the permission of the parents, we have taken permission. So we conduct
Right.
remedial classes for them throughout the year. Like from July again, we'll start for the next academic year. So
Right.
that way we take care of them in the classroom. In the classroom, yes, we try not to ask them if they volunteer, well and good. And most of the time
Right.
we try and keep it like that they should volunteer. Why should they be
Right.
left out? So we're keeping them
Right. Right.
in mind when we are planning our lessons, so that the higher order, as well as what is where they can also answer easily, where the slow learner, where we know this answer, the slow learners, and we will definitely ask them first, what do you have to say, that we know that they would be able to answer that many things, and then
Right.
uh, later for them. Yeah.
So, Rachna, there are some teachers that I've spoken to which are slightly smaller schools, I mean, with smaller teacher student ratio.
Hmm.
And what they have been doing is making use of technology in, grouping children, by getting into these breakout rooms, right? And so they're trying to kind of, either, trying to manually form these groups where
Hmm.
they're trying to kind of group, maybe there's a child with a learning disability with three, four other children, and maybe those, who are kids who are higher achievers, who have
Hmm.
specific strengths,
Hmm.
and then kind of creating these peer buddies or even peer mentors. So, some of the schools where we are working, as counselors,
Hmm.
we have been working on these breakout rooms. So have you been using them? Because I definitely plan to, suggest this in the forthcoming year to your school.
Okay.
Have you been using these breakout rooms? Because we've had considerable success where these have been used. So just wanted to ask you,
Okay.
you know, whether
in a
you
in
have
a
been using.
normal classroom situation, we do have this buddies. We always put them. We have a buddy system, that what a person who can help the other person, that is always there. But
Right.
breakout rooms, if you're saying one-to-one interaction, especially
No,
sitting
not
and
just
having
one
a
to one. No, 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 not one
uh,
to one. What I
uh,
mean to say is that suppose you're having a particular, say, your you mind, and you
hmm,
have a particular like a little assignment or project.
correct.
Would you have used, would you have grouped children into flexible groups and put them into
Always.
these breakout
Always,
rooms? Right,
always, always.
right.
We
Okay,
always make the
okay.
groups not like randomly 1 to 5 or 5 to 10. It's
Right,
always
right,
two the brighter children, two average, and then one who needs a little helping hand. So that
right. So you
all
have
are
been doing
together.
these flexible
Yeah,
groupings.
yeah.
Yes,
So
yes. That's
always
what
we
that's
always,
what I wanted to ask you.
yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, over to you, Karishma. My question to you would be, we've been listening to a lot of mental health issues amongst adults, young adults, as well as adolescents and children, right? So, what are, I would say, let's say, the two most frequent mental health challenges that you have seen coming to you as a school counselor across a couple of schools, and of course, you also, you head the school counseling vertical for Drishti. So you know what are some of the two most frequent mental health challenges that you've been seeing during this pandemic period. Yeah, and if you have any little story to tell us about this. But before we go ahead, Karishma, I would request all participants to put in any questions that you have into the chat. And I know that some people have already put in some questions. So I think just give us, once Karishma finishes with this question, I will take over the questions from chat. Yeah. So Karishma, over to you.
Yes. So I think at the start of pandemic, March 2021, it was more on your resilience skill, how children would be able to
Right.
bounce back from a difficult situation. And if I look to
Right.
exactly after a year,
Hmm.
the concerns have changed a little bit. So recently, if I have to say, if I have to rate it as top two most
Yes.
immediate concerns that's there, trauma, grief, because children have seen they're losing their parents or their loved ones. So,
Right.
I recently have a case where the student is in grade 7, has been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And, he shared with me that, ma'am, my mom was detected with COVID. And, so for that, I had to shift to my grandparents' place. So I said, okay. I said, how did you manage? So he said, no, it was for 14 days. I didn't like the place, and children with ASD would find it very difficult to adjust to altogether a different place.
Right.
He
Right.
said, somehow I managed, ma'am, this happened, and finally my mom recovered, so I'm back to my place. I said, that's very
Right.
nice to hear. And very immediately he said, but because of this, exactly after 14 days when I came back, I lost my grandfather. And I said, okay. I said, how are you managing? And that's where he started crying. And he said that,
Right.
I miss him. And to that extent, through with the help of the session that, we went ahead, he said that, I should take care of my grandmother too, because she would be feeling lonely at this point of time. So I cannot meet her frequently, but I connect with her online. So I think, ma'am, two most is right now is a lot of grief, a lot of trauma.
Grief and bereavement. Right. Right.
That's something that's though we are prepared, we know that this is the situation where we have to face it. But when it comes very sudden, and we don't know about somebody losing our family members, it's very difficult,
Right.
especially for children who would have behavioral or academic concerns.
Right. 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 Okay. So, I will take some questions from chat. But in the meantime, Apurva, one question for you. That what might be a good way, okay? And Apurva, Karishma, Rachna, any of you can pitch in. What is the kind of interaction or communication you all have been having with parents during this period, and what is really working in getting across to them, especially parents with children who are struggling, children with some special education needs. What is the kind of communication that you've been having with them, or what are some strategies that you've been using to help these parents. So Karishma, Rashna, anyone who wants to go, and then I'm just looking at some of the questions that have come up. Yeah, Karishma, you want to go
Yes.
in
So,
this?
ma'am, I think one of the things that has really worked is making the parents aware that it's though if parents are working, it's work from home for them, but for children, it is also school from home. So it's very important to set a routine. I think that's what it takes time. I mean, as parents, also, it for us also, to make the parents aware that, what is the importance of setting a routine that would not just help parents as well as the child, but there would be some sort of a harmony in the family itself only. So I think that's one
Right,
thing that we, it's very important for parents to know. Also, helping, children getting more involved into informal learning activities like cooking. And I do see a lot of, children sharing while the sessions are going on that, ma'am, I've learned to bake, I've learned to cook. One of them said, I've seen my parents helping each other during household chores. And it's all about role modeling at this point of time. So I think one of the ways through which we communicate, I think when it comes to technology wise, WhatsApp and, meeting them, the physical meeting is not happening. We have the, through the meeting that happens, but making them aware about certain strategies, that's something that is very helpful for them. So these are few things, we suggest. We always tell, I always tell them that, be in touch with your educator. Now I think the best part is that they're in their own comfort zone. They do see, what's happening if I are in the school or, any therapy session. So learn, see how the child is doing. That would also somewhere be helping you. So these are few things that, that has been very helpful, and we've got a lot of good responses from parents too, giving them few strategies.
right, right. Okay. Rachna, what about you? You are hands-on in school, and I'm sure that you've had a deluge of parents coming to you and wanting to know how they can work on the different things. So, any thoughts to share?
Yeah, see, we have been meeting parents on a regular basis. The way we used to have our open houses, now we have virtual open houses, one-to-one interactions. We tell them what is happening. Most of the parents are already aware because most of them are working from home. So they are around the
Right,
children, they know what is happening. And
right.
even write mails to us. Suppose a child is facing something, they will send a message to me or write a mail that my child is facing internet issues today, not well today, this, that. So all those applications have become virtual. All that is happening.
Right.
Certain cases where say there's a child in my class who's not submitting at all, okay, all the submissions never on time. So I had to call up the parent specially and speak to her. So then I could figure out that there is a problem in the
Okay.
house. There are four siblings, as we discussed in the beginning. So four siblings in the same house using the same Wi-Fi. How much bandwidth can you increase? And then the father is not working. Father is not working. Mother is the only person. So those, then you get to know that the child was facing that. So give them a little extra time. Give them a helping hand. Give
Right.
them one child who will help them. So that's how we've been interacting with parents, also getting to know the situation. All some parents who were doing well, suddenly because of the pandemic now they don't disclose, but many have lost their jobs. Many have
Yes.
lost jobs. Many,
Yes.
the salary has been reduced. There is a reduction in maybe 40% salary. The variables have gone for some. So there are a lot of things happening in the house also, which the children will not be able to tell you. When you are attending a class, they will not disclose it to you. But when you speak to the parent, you get to know what are the challenges they are facing at home too. So the children, that's why we try and deal with them on a very, very, we try to be gentle to them. You can't, force them to do something, switch on your camera or I will, throw you out of the class or whatever. That cannot be done. We do not know what is going on at the back in their homes right now. So somebody is unwell, as
So,
Karishma said, that somebody is unwell. So they are also going through that. They're not able to say it aloud, maybe in a classroom of 50. How would they? So trying to,
right, right. So if I'm able to hear it right, I think the urgent need at this point of time is both informal and formal counseling, right? In
absolutely.
fact, Rachna, we also run courses now which are available on our website, which is a different website for our courses, which is Prabhav. We also run courses which is on counseling skills for teachers because we do consider teachers to be frontline counselors and more so during this period. So I'm going to take this one question from Ritu, And maybe Apurva, maybe you can get going on that. What she's asking is that that in the regular mainstream schools we still have online schools happening, but special schools, therapy sessions, what's happening there, because the special kids are probably not getting their routine in terms of learning. So any thoughts on that?
I would say that because of the pandemic, the role of the teachers has expanded tremendously. As Smita was saying, and as well as Rachna, that teachers are working as counselors, and that's something that even Karishma has been able to, ascertain. What I'm seeing today is that teachers are not only working as teachers, they're not only working as counselors, they are also working with the parents so that the parents can provide maybe physical therapy, can provide language therapy, can provide yoga therapy, can provide art-based therapies. So teachers have evolved in the roles that they have taken on, from
Right.
being teachers for teaching concepts and knowledge giving to being therapists. And this is
Right.
purely because of the wonderful collaborative communication that we can see between the parents and the teachers. Uh, I think the parents of children with special needs, uh, though I had said this earlier, that maybe the child is not a priority for them vis-a-vis education at this point, but they do realize that they owe it to the child. And we are seeing that many parents are very forthcoming, and they have been working with the teachers, giving ideas, creating routines, taking the activities, giving time for getting trained from the teachers, and then doing those activities with the child at home and giving feedback. So, most importantly, we are seeing that parents are evolving as leaders. Parents are
In
evolving
fact,
as
yeah. In
leaders
fact, if
and
you,
equal
yeah.
partners in the educational process.
In fact, if I may interrupt, Apurva, this year, that is the year of the pandemic, we as therapists have probably had the best year of parent interaction and communication. Because typically Drishti, which is center-based therapy, where children come for therapy and we have therapists working with the children. Although we work with parents, it's pretty much parents in the background, right? And then we give them things to do at home and we come back. But here what's happening is, because we're doing online therapy, the parent is mostly around, even if not right there in the therapy session. And a very good thing that has happened is, as therapists, we've got some, really good positive strokes, because the parents are telling us that now we are actually understanding the amount of work that you as therapists are putting in. Like we are right there, and we can see the resources you use, we can see the kind of efforts you're making to keep the child's attention on the task, and we can really see the efforts that is going into the therapy. So overall, we've had some fantastic communication. I see this as a great positive, silver lining. And very logistical issue, the travel that parents had to do, taking the children from school to therapy to home, that all has cut down. So, it's kind of, everyone's so much more relaxed, has so much more energies in terms of, contributing that energy to the therapy. So that's I think a very positive thing that we as therapists are able to share with the audience here. And there's a question from Paula, that for all the older students who do not open up their emotions and are frustrated being at home, showing no interest in classroom interaction, any suggestions? So I have a certain suggestion, but before that, if I can request all our participants to please fill in the feedback form. We really do look back to to your feedback, because anything positive is great for us, and any kind of constructive feedback is also very, very welcome. It just helps us to do better. So, Paula, what I find for older students, where they show no interaction in the, interest in the classroom interaction, I would go a lot with what Rachna is saying, and saying that move away from just, let's say, presentations. Move away from activities which tend to be, just like a no person interaction. We just have to innovate and make it as interactive as possible. Let's say the very first question that I had when we opened this webinar, right? I could have just said, okay, give me your views. But what I did was I asked each of our panelists to give me their rating on a scale, right? And so if we are able to get kids to interact, I think that's one of the best ways. And I think Rachna spoke a lot about that. Yeah. There is Felchina who is asking that if students are not connecting with us due to their background and also data issues from remote areas, how can we reach out? So, Apurva, any thoughts on that? Rachna, any thoughts on this? How can we bridge this technology or this data issue?
The way I'm seeing it, Smita, is we need to go, teachers are forced to go beyond their classroom teaching. And if you do take cognizance of the fact that children are coming from backgrounds and families which are stressed today because of the pandemic, definitely one has to give that leeway. Secondly, fine, the data may be a problem, but you do have a phone. Just call up the child, talk to the child. I have done that with my adult learners and it has worked. So I think that if it is going to work with adult learners and they feel connected with the teacher, it would work also for children where anyway they are looking up to you as their role models, and a phone call from the teacher saying, hey, hello, how are you, and why is it that you are having difficulty connecting, will go a long way. You'll get that emotional connect and they will be there with you for learning. This always reminds me of what my senior faculty, when I did my special ed training, she had said that if you're able to connect with the child at the emotional level, be sure that you can reach the child at the cognitive level. And I think making a phone call is not too difficult. Do that. It will go a long way.
Right. In fact, that is one strategy which I have read in some articles, Apurva. And I think I fully connect with you. And I think also what Ms. Rachna spoke about, that, having little, maybe some, small group focused classes after the regular school. So whether it may be just a remedial training, but it gives a lot of connect to those 2 and 3 children with the teacher. So,
and then
they
are happy in the classroom when they see you in the classroom after you've connected to them the day prior after school on a one-to-one level. Then when they are back in that group of 50, they look happy. They somehow have that connect. I know Miss better than the others. I have spent more time with her and I've interacted with her and now she's there. So that makes a difference. A lot of difference.
Right. Okay, so I think we have now reached the end of our webinar. And if I can ask each of my panelists to give maybe one closing thought or one closing comment, because here our talk was on how not only online education, but how can we make inclusion possible? How can we reach out to those children who might be struggling due to various issues? So one closing thought from each of you. Any one of you could start? Rachna, you want to go?
Okay, what I would like to say is a very, very interesting session. A lot of things to learn from Dr. Apurva here. What all she mentioned, I'll definitely take it back to my classroom and tell my colleagues as well to go ahead, and especially for those students who need that little extra attention in class, extra care in class, and of course connect with the parents better. Their parents need to be there when we are interacting with them. If they could also be there when we are interacting them on a one-to-one basis, interacting with them. So that is a big takeaway from here, and lot of ideas discussed here. So a very interesting session. Thank you for having me, and thank you so much for sharing all the whatever we discussed here.
Sure. Apurva, your thoughts?
I think this new normal is here to stay. And what is going to be important for all of us is to look at the collaboration between 4 important stakeholders: the parents, the teachers, the students, and the school management. I think in all this discussion somewhere, we were yet not focusing on the students and their needs. and how they are going to be involved in this new normal. So I think more and more discussions, more and more platforms to have that kind of a connect will help us may be more and more comfortable. Though I said, we have moved from the chaos to clarity to comfort. If we have to get more into this to maximize the learning opportunities and maximize their mental well-being as well, there have to be more opportunities for open communication amongst these four stakeholders. And that will lead to far more inclusion with technology integration, definitely.
Children
Thank
are
you for
feeling
having me on this
stifled.
panel for
Children are
discussion.
feeling, stifled also in that closed environment. Sometimes when you speak to them, you can make out that they're feeling that they want to let go, they want to step out, they want to. So,
Right.
making them comfortable, talking to them, and if their parents are present, yes, Dr. Pura, if their parents are present with them when we speak to them about this, it'll help. And open communication would definitely help.
Right. Karishma, your
Um,
closing thoughts on this?
Yes, so just to continue what Dr. Apurva said, that collaboration, and I think also consistency, and that's where the child would evolve. The considering the mental well-being of the child, not just consistency, but also making acceptance and working on these areas, not just with the child but with the parent, and also with school authorities and with the entire management. And I think once that's something that's there with consistency, there would be a lot of positive improvement that we would see, not just from the child's perspective, because if the child is happy in the class, the teacher is happy. If the teacher is happy, I mean, the parents do keep coming walking and see how the child is doing, and that's something that would create a positive and a happy environment in the family. And the again, the main point person over here is the well-being of the child. So I think that's what is very important, when it comes to inclusive education, using the virtual classrooms.
Thank you so much, Karishma. And I think what I'm going to close with is a bit of an extension of what Dr. Apurva just said about, how we can focus on students as the stakeholders, most important stakeholders, because we always believe that the reason we are all here today and in whatever jobs we do is because of the child, right? And therefore, in fact, with our team at Drishti, this is what I've been speaking about, that this forthcoming academic year, I think the focus really and very actively has to be on the social emotional learning rather than just the cognitive. So the cognitive, the academic will happen. Like Rachna has said, there are no issues in planning and executing the lessons, but it is finally the human connect, which we really need to focus on much more than we otherwise do. And I do know that there are a couple of questions here which are very important. I'm going to quickly answer them, and that is, Harsha has said, how do we make lessons interesting for kids with severe attention issues? Harsha, I think I would take my cues from a lot of cues from what Rachna has spoken about, because I think all of those are going to help us with children with attention issues. And also what Dr. Apurva said, making some calls, having smaller classes, having the breakout rooms. I think those are what are going to be helpful during the virtual classrooms. And Felchina, unfortunately, we do not have time to be talking about, how are we going to reach out to parents who are daily wage laborers. Believe me, that's a completely different ballgame and a completely different discussion altogether. So unfortunately, we do not have the time today on our platform to take this up, but I'm definitely going to think about this particular issue to probably take on as a different, on a topic, on a separate webinar altogether. I think that would really justify this very important topic and have people come in to talk about that. So thank you very much, everyone, panelists. We've had a fantastic participation today, and look forward to many more such webinars. So Dr. Purva, Rachna, Karishma, thank you for joining us, and a very big thanks to our participants. I do hope that you have filled out the feedback form, and a very good evening to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.